On behalf of Nicholls State University, its President, Dr. Stephen Holbert, and the Athletics Department, welcome to what is now the 31st anniversary of the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame first began on September the 12th, 1981. So here we are 31 years later, celebrating another class induction into our Hall of Fame. Ironically, several of the people, I believe, that were here in that first time on September the 12th are with us today, and I do want to recognize them. That first class, incidentally, that was inducted in 1981 was Robert Taylor, a baseball player, Cleve Hill, a basketball player and former dean of college education at Nicholls, Gary Barbero, who was a football player, Ray Ferran, and the former athletics director and baseball coach Ray Didier. The athletics director at the time, who I'm sure can tell us what that event was like, is with us today, and Don Landry. Don, welcome. I do want to recognize some of the folks from our university. They're always so kind to us in athletics and attend all of our events. And that begins with our president, Dr. Stephen Holbert, in the back there. Dr. Holbert, welcome and thank you. Also, our executive vice president, Larry Howe. Larry, there he is. My boss and the vice president for institutional advancement, Dr. David Boudreau. Dr. Boudreau in the back. And we're fortunate, probably in 1981, along with Don Landry, was Debbie Raziano, I suspect, 31 years ago, and she's with us here today again. Thank you. I also want to recognize a couple of folks that are with us that are on the Hall of Fame Selection Committee. It features 7 individuals, and they are by title, and 3 of them are with us here today. One is Trey Greco, who's in the back. Trey, thank you for being here. Ariana Martin, Dr. Martin, she's around here. And I said 3, and there's only 2, because I thought Mike Knight was here, and he's not. Along with some of those introductions, I always like to recognize our current Hall of Fame members. This event celebrates a lot of the history of our university and its athletics department, and there's no better way to celebrate it than bringing back the Hall of Fame members that are currently in our group. They are the history of this athletics department, and so it's so important for you to come back each year, and I do want to welcome you. Let me just go through this list, and please recognize them. It starts with Phil Driscoll, who's a former basketball player there in the back. Emil Jolly, Mr. Jolly in the back there, was a baseball player with us. I'm especially pleased to welcome back Tommy Abadie, a baseball player with us. Just incidentally, Tommy and our own Mike Davis were on the 1970 baseball team, which is the only team in the Hall of Fame. That team came close, finished second to winning the national championship in 1970. So, Mike, I want to recognize you as well. Our former basketball player, our basketball coach, Jerry Sanders. Jerry, welcome. Our former head men's basketball coach, Ricky Broussard. Ricky, welcome back. A former football player who I see is injured. He spent some of his time injured as well when he was a player. So things never change. Josh Sun. The only bad news, there he is. The only bad news I have for you, Josh, is since you're no longer on scholarship, that those medical bills are on you and not on us. So, as he just walked in the door, our former baseball coach and a member of our Hall of Fame Selection Committee, Mike Knight. Coach Knight, don't sit down. Tom Broom was a football player inducted last year. Tom. Lester Beam, a soccer 2 years ago. Lester. I'd mentioned Coach Landry. Daryl Abear was a baseball player. Daryl, welcome. And also Dr. Ariana Martin, who I've mentioned. Welcome to all of you. I appreciate your attendance. And again, the history of this department is right here in this room with all of you. So thank you for coming. I do want to make one mention. Today's game features all the inductees and the game program. So when you go into the stadium, make sure and grab a copy of it. Inside then also contains a little bit of a bio on them, so please make sure and grab that. To do the introductions is Mike Wagenheim. Mike is our Executive Director of Athletics and handles all of our external affairs. He is also the Executive Director of the Seth Thibodeau Show, and This Week in Colonel Athletics, which appears each week on CSTV beginning November the 1st. You can also hear Mike weekly on our football broadcasts on radio channels KXLOR and also KXOR. You'll understand why he is our radio person, because he does such a great job, and I'm pleased to welcome Mike to read the introductions. Mike?
So glad to have everybody with us here today. It's great to see you. We begin with our inductions. Chris Thompson becomes a 22nd football player and 84th member of the Nicholls Athletics Hall of Fame, joining the likes of Darryl Pounds as one of only 3 defensive backs selected to our Hall of Fame. 4-year starter with the Colonels. Wasn't just a fixture in the Nicholls secondary, he was a nightmare for Colonel opponents. If he wasn't making tackles or intercepting passes, he was blocking kicks. During Thompson's junior year, he blocked 7 kicks, including 5 punts and 2 field goal attempts. Creating problems for quarterbacks and kickers was routine for Thompson. By the end of his junior year, he was a 2-time All-Southland Conference selection and a second-team choice to the All-Louisiana squad. Thompson finished with 12 career interceptions. He ranked 6th all-time in interceptions, tied with Darryl Pounds and Ladarius Webb for the most picks in a single game with 3. Thankfully for Southland Conference opponents, Thompson completed his Nicholls career following the 2003 season. He finished that campaign with a host of honors, including first-team All-Southland Conference, second-team All-Louisiana, and was selected to the Sports Network All-American First Team as a kick returner. And that's what many of his opponents sounded like after he played him. He was picked for the annual Blue-Gray All-Star Game that same year as well. Chris Thompson is one of only 14 Colonels to be drafted into the NFL. He was the 150th overall pick in 2004. Thompson is currently a member of the Edmonton Eskimos of the Canadian Football League and therefore could not be with us today. But here to accept on his behalf is his mother, Jo Thompson.
Thank you very much. Well, like you said, Chris is not here today. Actually, he is scheduled to play a ball game in the next 3 hours, and we've been able to watch him on the NFL and also on the NBCS Sports Network, some of his home games. I graciously and humbly accept this award on his behalf. He did tell me to say that it was a wonderful, wonderful experience being here at Nicholls State. When he was chosen to come here, well, when he actually chose, he was recruited to choose this school, he came and we visited the campus, and one of the things Chris said was that it felt like home. Plus, it was really close to home, so he could come home and get food and get his laundry done. But he also had a really good time here on campus, and he also made friends that he's still very close to. And I'm so glad to see Josh here, and actually just spoke to Chris, technology, just Skyped him. You can see that he's real well represented here this afternoon with his wife and his daughter, as she's in the back over there, with his family, his in-laws, his sister, and his nephews. We're very proud of Chris. One of the things that we said to Chris when he left Nicholls State was that we wanted him to come back and finish his degree. Every season, off season, his last team he played with in the NFL was the Chicago Bears, and he was always saying, I'm going to come back, I'm going to come back. Well, needless to say, this past season he did come back and he enrolled. So we look forward to coming back here when he actually gets his piece of paper as not only a football player, but also as a graduate of Nicholls State. So again, thank you very much for this honor.
New Orleans native Gerard King becomes the 85th inductee into the Nicholls Hall of Fame. The 6'9" forward was a force during his 4-year Colonel career. King scored 1,834 points as a Colonel, 16.7 points per game. Arriving at Nicholls from McDonough 35 in New Orleans, where he averaged 26 points a night, King got off to a fast start. He led the Colonels, averaging 6.7 rebounds a game right off the bat, and finished third in scoring with over 13 a night. That freshman year, King made his presence immediately known, scoring 32 points and hauling in 13 rebounds in a win over North Texas. The following week against Northeast Louisiana, he scored another 29 points. Continuing his impressive play, he averaged over 13 points and more than 5 rebounds as a sophomore. Picked up Player of the Week honors twice that season and earned All-Southland Conference honorable mention. In King's junior year, he averaged 18.5 points per game, shooting 53% from the floor, and led the Southland in steals with 2.5 a night. He earned All-Southland Conference second-team honors that season. King's senior year, certainly one to remember, as Hall of Fame coach Ricky Broussard's Colonels captured the Southland Conference Championship and earned a trip to the NCAA Division I tournament. The '95 season ended with the Colonels sitting 17-1 in Southland Conference play, 24-6 overall. King ended his career by being named first-team All-Southland Conference, second-team All-Louisiana, and first-team NABC All-District. In 2006, Gerard King was inducted into the Louisiana Basketball Hall of Fame, now the Nicholls Athletics Hall of Fame. Accepting on behalf of Gerard King today, our own Hall of Fame coach, Ricky Broussard.
Coach Landry, I said, how long do you think I can talk off this, these notes today? He said, make it short, Coach. Gerard could not be here today, unfortunately, but he did tell me that it was a great honor, of course. He appreciates the committee selecting him for the Hall of Fame. And he enjoyed his years here at Nicholls State as well. Of course, he went on to an NBA career, a professional basketball career in Europe first. Then he played, I think it's 4 or 5 years in the NBA. Played for the San Antonio Spurs, and they won a world championship, so he has a world championship ring. And he also, his biggest honor, he felt, is having played on the United States Olympic basketball team. I don't know if you guys remember the year that the NBA was in a lockout, and they used American players that were playing overseas to form the United States Olympic team. He was the starting center, and we won a bronze medal that year. So he's very proud of having achieved that in his career. When I first came to Nicholls State, I think Gerard might have been the second player that I signed here. Rennie Bailey was my assistant at that time, and I asked Rennie, I said, Rennie, I have no clue who's still out there. I think it was April or May. And Rennie said, Coach, there's a kid at McDonough 35 that doesn't have an offer, but I think he's a pretty good player. So I said, well, let's go see him. Well, it didn't take me very long to really see what kind of player Gerard could be. He was 6'7", about 180 pounds. He left here at 6'9", 235. He really worked hard in the weight room. He worked hard out on the court. He came early, stayed late. When I saw that he had 53% shooting average, I'm like, wow, because he really couldn't shoot. But he worked at his craft. He became a good player. If I had to say what was the most impressive thing that caught my eye, and I'm sure Rennie's eye, about Gerard, was that he was a mistake-free player. He didn't make mistakes out there on the court. He could take the ball, dribble it full length of the floor, and make the appropriate pass. And at that size, and actually I encouraged him to do it in the games. So he's a very skilled player. I think the best compliment that I've ever heard about Gerard King was I was actually in Portsmouth, Virginia, where the NBA has a tryout camp. And I'm sitting up in the stands, and I see Jerry West walking up. I have no idea what he's going to be doing. So he comes to sit next to me, and he says, you Coach Broussard? I said, yeah. He said, I want to tell you, I've been at this business for a long time. He said, Gerard King is one of the most what was the word he used? Skilled and fundamentally sound players that he had ever seen in camp. So I thought that was a big compliment. And of course, they ended up drafting him as well. So just see if there's anything else he wanted me to share with you today. I think that's it. So again, we thank you very much for inducting him into the Hall of Fame, the committee, and congratulations to all the other inductees as well today.
Next on our list, the 86th member of the Nicholls Athletics Hall of Fame, Amy Orr, who enters as the 5th softball player alongside Laura Davis and Dion Meyer. The Spring, Texas native came to Nicholls from Ranger Community College, where she was a standout pitcher, earning MVP honors 2 years in a row and leading her team to a 7th place finish in the National Junior College Tournament. Orr picked up right where she left off when she arrived here at Nicholls, setting a single-season record with 28 wins in 1994. That mark ranked her 3rd in the nation that year. The team finished 52-17 overall, 21-7 in Southland Conference play. Those 52 wins were the most in the Southland that year. During the 1995 season, Orr surpassed the previous year's victory total, recording an incredible 32 victories, including 19 shutouts. Those 19 whitewashings are a Southland Conference record that still stands today. Orr finished the 95 season with a .60 earned run average, which ranks 5th in Southland history. That squad finished 56-9 overall and 28-2 in conference play. The 56 wins from that squad remains a Southland Conference record. For her individual efforts, Orr was named Southland Conference Pitcher of the Year, Player of the Year, and All-League First Team. That squad competed in the 1995 NCAA Division I Softball Championship. Amy, for her part, ended her tenure here with 60 wins, 33 shutouts, 401 strikeouts, and a .96 ERA, setting some impressive marks that have stood the test of time. Ladies and gentlemen, Amy Orr Adelson.
That picture off. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be recognized by my alma mater, and I'm very proud to have been involved with the softball program here at Nicholls State. When I was a kid, my parents spent most of their free time driving me to softball practice, pitching lessons, games, and tournaments all over the country, because they believed that participating in sports was character building and an invaluable way to learn some of life's most important lessons. At Nicholls State, Coach Compton always told us that because we worked harder than the other teams, that we deserved to win more than they did. For me, her words proved to be true not only on the softball field, but in life in general. This is a lesson that I teach my son today, whether he's going out to play football, running the 400, or studying for a test. Today, I would like to thank my parents for all they did to help me achieve my goals in softball, and to Nicholls State for the opportunity to compete and for recognizing my achievements in the Hall of Fame here. Thank you.
Jay Pennison becomes a 22nd football player inducted into the Nicholls Athletics Hall of Fame and our 87th overall member. The Houma, Louisiana native is just the 4th offensive lineman to enter our Hall of Fame. A two-way starter at South Terrebonne High School, Pennison went on to play center for the Fightin' Colonels. Going into the 1981 season, first-year head coach Sonny Jackson said of Pennison, quote, "We're looking for him to give us lots of leadership up front because he's a big young man who can play center, guard, or tackle. His attitude is super. He's going to be a positive factor for us," end quote. A very positive factor indeed. Pennison anchored the Colonel offensive line for 3 straight seasons and was selected team captain in 1983. Team captain wasn't the only honor bestowed on him. He was selected to the Associated Press All-American First Team in 1982 and again in 1983. He also earned First Team All-Louisiana honors following the '83 campaign. Pennison's playing days did not end at Nicholls. He was drafted by the Jacksonville Bulls of the United States Football League in 1984 and played 2 seasons before signing with the Houston Oilers. He went on to a 5-year NFL career. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jay Pennison.
All right, this is going to be hard. I'm going to try and thank as many people as I can, but first off, I want to thank my parents, and I told Eddie I was going to keep it together, but I don't think I will. My wife for 30 years, I love you. I'm sorry. This means a lot to me. You don't know. God, I'm sorry. It was 30 years ago that, I walked on Nicholls State. I'm sorry. I got a good story, right? So I was a tight end and defensive end at South Terrebonne High School, right? I'm looking at Mike. And so I was recruited by 2 schools, McNeese and Nicholls wanted me to walk on. So I said, well, I'm going to go to Nicholls because it's, it's close to Mom and Dad's house and I can, get some good jambalaya every now and then. And so Coach Buddy Marcello, my coach at South Terrebonne, he had an envelope with Bill Clement's name on it and handed it to me. He said, son, when you get there, give Coach Clements this letter. I'm like, okay. So I sat there for about 2 days with that letter, and I finally opened it up, and it says, Coach Clements, Jay Pennison played tight end and defensive end for us at South Terrebonne, and he's actually a center. This his position is center, and you need to put him there. So I'm like, you know what? I'm a tight end. So I tore the letter up, and I was like, man, if I'm walking on, I want y'all to throw me the ball. I'm going to be this great tight end. And so the very first practice, Mike Knight's like, all right, tight ends go over here. I raised my hand, tight end. He's like, you a tight end? I said, yes, sir, I'm a tight end. So we got there, and I probably got 10 minutes into the first drill. We running routes, and I hear my name being called from across the field, Pennison. I'm like, man, I must be doing good. So I run over there, and they said, get over there with the offensive lineman. So I need to thank you, Coach Knight, for cutting me that quick and realizing that I wasn't no tight end. And then in practice, I get over there, and I got Tommy Broom over there, and I'm struggling to get a scholarship because I walked on, so I'm sitting there going, I got to get a scholarship. And he used to cuss me out every day in practice going, you don't have to hold the dummy that hard. You don't have to, you're going too hard. I'm sitting there going, well, coach is telling me I got to go full speed. So, I learned a lot from those guys, and I looked up to you guys, and I did learn a lot from you guys. And then Sonny Jackson came to the university and did a lot, and my offensive line coach, Kenny Guillot and Joe Clark, much love for those guys. And, being at this university, you meet friends that are, lifelong friends, and I have several of them here, Butch Dagg, Emile LePere, Shane Candies, they're like my brothers. So I'll get that. And there's another one of my friends. Thank you. Anyway, I went on to play with the Houston Oilers, and, I was on the offensive line with 2 future Hall of Famers, Mike Munchak and Bruce Matthews, and, they went to Penn State, USC, snapped the ball to Warren Moon, and those guys knew where I came from, and I told them. I went to Nicholls State, and I'm proud to be from Nicholls State, and I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all.
Ben Abadie enters the Hall of Fame as the 14th head coach and the first representing our women's basketball program. Abadie took the reins of the women's basketball program here in 1983 after a very successful 2-year stint at Slidell High School, where he captured a regional championship and racked up a record of 40-15. His new position of women's basketball coach was a return home for Abadie. This was a place he earned 2 degrees while participating as a member of the baseball team and later as a graduate assistant in both baseball and basketball. The red and gray runs very, very deep in Ben Abadie. Didn't take him long to get the Laney Colonel basketball program heading in the right direction here. By his second season, he had doubled his wins total and Nicholls was becoming a team to be taken very seriously. Competitiveness and aggressive play were the hallmarks of our women's basketball program under Coach Abadie. He steered a young, inexperienced, underfunded program to respectability. Prior to the 2011 season, Abadie's teams in 1990 and 91 were the two most successful women's basketball teams in Lady Colonel history. And to this day, Abadie's 89 victories as head coach are the most of any women's basketball head coach here. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ben Abadie.
It's not hard to win 89 games if you stay here 20 years. Don't worry, it's in 16 font. It's not going to be that long. Just a little while ago, I got a really huge surprise. All my brothers and their wives showed up, and my sister would have been here also, but she has grandmother duties in Baton Rouge today. If you bear with me here, some of these people came from really far away, and I'd just like them to stand. My brother Jack and his wife Judy, would you stand, please? My brother Tommy, his wife Judy was unable to attend. He's also a member of the Hall of Fame. I'm trying to get them in order. Michael, my brother Michael and his wife Denise, my brother Stephen and his wife Greta, and my brother David and his wife Sharon. Thank you all so much for coming. As I said, this was a complete surprise. On such short notice, I didn't really have a lot of time to think about this. All I can say is this. That in the days before air conditioning and TV, in the 50s and 60s, bonds were formed in the Irish Channel. That'll never be broken. We were the privileged generation. We had two grandmothers and two grandfathers and a mother and a father who loved us. I love all of you. Okay. Let me get to the other part here. There are many people who helped me and inspired me in my days here at Nicholls, and who contributed to the program when I worked here. I couldn't possibly mention all of them here, but there are a few that I feel that I must mention. First of all, I have to thank the committee for even considering me for this honor. And one of my former players, Ariana Smith, is here today, and I really appreciate all that she contributed to the program and all the work that she's done here at Nicholls in the most recent years. There were people who always had their door open to me, regardless of how busy they were trying to solve their own problems. And these people included people like Gordon Stauffer, Ricky Broussard, Phil Greco, Easton LaBeouf, Sonny Jackson, Donald Rodrigue, Tom Gainey, Mike Knight, Mayfield Armstrong. And I know that I've left some out. Jerry Sanders, I can think of now. You know, I know that I've left some out, and please take no offense. I just couldn't think about all of them and get everybody mentioned here. The people who had a direct influence on the program when I was here. Don Landry and Marion Curtis were responsible for hiring me, and I'll be forever grateful to them. Lynn Oberbillig, Jean Bourgeois, who was Mrs. Curtis's secretary, but really had double, triple, and quadruple duties because she took care of all of us. I think she helped Ricky when he was basketball coach here, and she took care of softball. She took care of the women's athletics director. She really did a heck of a job. Barbara Knockan, who was our trainer, and my daily lunch partner when both of us were in town, Mike Davis. And both of us weren't in town very often sometimes, but we did manage to do lunch every day that we were in town, I guess for about 8 years. And all I can say about Davis is he's now vice president of the university. He must have improved a lot since I left. That's an old joke, folks. And there was one other person who made an unbelievable contribution, and I have to talk about him here. Most of you know him, Dr. Cleveland Hill. I saved Cleve for last for a reason. I had the privilege of working with him for 2 seasons as an unpaid volunteer assistant. He simply loved basketball and saw the need to help our program. During this time, his duties included full-time husband, father to 2 teenage girls, full-time physical education department teacher, plus he was collecting data for writing and defending his doctoral dissertation. In the late evenings when I was headed home, he was headed back to his office for more hours of work. I can't imagine what time he would get home, and anytime I wanted to feel sorry for myself, I had only to think about what he must have been going through. Some of the things I saw him do remain an inspiration to me to this day. He was then and is now a wonderful human being and a truly gentle man. I am truly grateful to all of the people I have mentioned so far, and will always think about and look fondly upon their influence in our basketball program when I was here. And now I have to get to the real reason for my success here at Nicholls, my family. Laurie, Jennifer, and my 2 sons, Bo and Chris. I need to tell you about them because they were the reason I was able to survive for 10 years at Nicholls. They left a very hectic but comfortable life in Slidell, Louisiana to follow me to Thibodaux. They were very securely entrenched, socially, athletically, and academically in their schools and community. They gave all of that up so that I could pursue my lifelong dream of becoming a college coach. As the adventure in Thibodaux began, things looked rather bright. My predecessor, Kathy Sachuk, left some very good players and recruits. Coach Lynn Oberbillig doubled as assistant basketball coach. The budget was good and everyone was quite helpful. Coming from high school, it took me some time to adjust to the college game. We lost a number of close games early on, and if the truth be known, we could have been more successful in terms of wins and losses if I had been a better coach. As those first few years passed, things began to happen that took their toll on the program. Coach Lynn, whose softball teams were perennially the class of our league, was granted her wish by Miss Curtis to be relieved of her basketball duties and become full-time in softball. Coach Landry moved on to be a conference commissioner, and Miss Curtis retired after several bouts of high blood pressure. As the situation began to deteriorate personnel-wise and budget-wise, I began to throw myself into the program even more vigorously than before. With job and budget pressures mounting at Nicholls, I'm certain that I became distant and withdrawn at home, totally preoccupied with how I would solve the next day's problems. I made a mistake that many people make. Women's basketball coach at Nicholls State University became who I was and not what I did for a living. Once again, my family paid the price. I was there in body only and otherwise not much help. Laurie's job as a special education teacher at H.L. Bourgeois High School was no less important or demanding than mine. Yet still she managed to perform her job, take care of a household which included, at the time, 3 teenage children, get her master's degree, and become Special Education Teacher of the Year in the state of Louisiana in 1988. Recently, I read a blog on the internet written by an 18-year-old young lady who was wise beyond her years. It was entitled The Privilege of Failure. As I stand before you now as a Hall of Fame inductee, it was my family who allowed me the privilege of failure. They allowed me to get my priorities totally mixed up and still stuck it out with me. As my granddaughter Megan found out, the privilege of failure in science also allows the privilege of redo. Life offers no such accommodation. Life offers only judgment or forgiveness. If one chooses judgment and blame, one grows cynical and old before their time. If one chooses the path of forgiveness, one grows as a human being and moves toward tomorrow filled with wisdom and peace. I'm certain my granddaughter will learn this part of the privilege of failure equation as she grows older. So thank you for listening, and on behalf of my family, I humbly and gratefully accept this award. Thank you. One other thing, Mr. Bernard.
You can call me Rob.
Rob? Okay. I was talking to another inductee, not somebody who's been in for a while, my friend Emil Jolin, before this meeting, and he told me that this is for life, and it doesn't cost anything. That's better than those 10 one-year contracts I signed when I was here.
Fortunately, the days of budget pressure here at Nicholls are long gone. I don't have to worry about that anymore. Scott Sanders becomes the 15th baseball player inducted into the Nicholls Athletics Hall of Fame. Sanders was an all-district, all-parish, and all-region selection in both baseball and basketball during his time at Thibodeau High School. As a freshman at Nicholls, Sanders helped lead the Colonels to their most successful back-to-back seasons in program history, finishing 80, 33, and 1 during that two-year stint. The '89 team finished up 44 and 16 as Sanders and company led the Colonels into the NCAA Division I tournament. The 44 wins were the most ever for a Colonel baseball squad, and that year, Nicholls was only one of 3 independents to receive an at-large bid into the tournament. Sanders was part of a very impressive group of Colonel pitchers as he chalked up a 5-1 record with 44 strikeouts in 17 appearances. That pitching staff included Mike Moeller, Gary Ruggiero, Scott Sanders, and a terrific cast. They combined for a school record 437 strikeouts that year. The following season, Sanders won 11 games and finished with a remarkable 133 strikeouts. The Colonels went 36 and 17 and just missed out on a second at-large bid to the NCAA tournament. Following the 1990 campaign, Sanders was drafted in the first round by the San Diego Padres and went on to a very successful career in the major leagues, pitching 9 seasons, racking up 632 strikeouts in 235 appearances. Always a Colonel, Sanders lends his time, knowledge, and experience to the Nicholls baseball squad still to this day and serves as our city's resident baseball ambassador. His baseball academy is dedicated toward promoting the sport of baseball through youth development and technique training. Scott Sanders joins his dad, Jerry, as the only father and son combination in the Nicholls Athletics Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Scott Sanders.
I'm gonna pull this out right away, so. Jay's bigger than me, so I don't feel as bad, you know. That's a big man like that cry makes me proud. Where do I start? You know, obviously probably 75% of people in this room saw me grow up and play ball here. I moved. My father, my mother, and my sister were in Missouri. My dad took a basketball job down here when I was 2 years old. I'm not looking this way because my mom's gonna make me cry. So. But give me a second. I grew up on this campus. I was either at the basketball stadium as a ball boy. The baseball field used to be here where the softball field was. I was a bat boy, then I moved to the back. I was at the football games watching Pennison. I used to run around, throw the footballs that you get from the cheerleaders, and I only dreamt of coming to one school. I grew up just my heroes were Larry Wilson, Shelby Hippolyte, Cleveland Hill, all these guys that I didn't like. I mean, I love professional athletes, but I dreamed of just watching those guys play. And my dad was my hero. It was just, I'm gonna get it together. Hold on, give me a second. But, I still remember my dad. I'll back up a little bit, but I wanted to be a basketball player is what I wanted to do in life. I just played baseball in the past time. Coach Abadie, believe it or not, was a coach of mine. I played with his boys, and I love basketball. And I played baseball just because it got me to the next basketball season, and I still remember I was Coach Knight's ball boy, and I was a ball boy when my dad was coaching. And once my dad got out of basketball, I still watched him all the games, but I just wasn't as around. But I still remember Coach Knight having a recruiting visit, and he always would kind of like come at me with little things here and there. But first thing he's like, what you think about not playing basketball? I was like, oh, nah, that's not going to happen. And he says, well, you need to think about it, because if you put your mind in sort of baseball, you might make a living at it one day. I only threw 82 miles an hour coming out of Tilbury High, so I was thinking, I don't see many guys throwing 82 on TV, but whatever. So then, I actually, believe it or not, if my father would have still been coaching here, which he was, and he took off and went work in the oil field in '81, I would have played 100% as wouldn't have been an if and a but about it. But, so I got to the point where I sat down and I was 6'1", kind of slow and white. So, I mean, that's like, I watch TV and I know it, so I knew that NBA that was my dream, but I knew that probably wasn't happening, especially because of my feet. I was slow, but I could shoot. But Coach Abadie, it's funny because we used to play, Coach Knight didn't know that we used to play on Christmas break. Yeah, he didn't know that. But Coach Abadie used to always tell the guys, hey, the best shooter on campus isn't even playing basketball. So, but so he hit me with that first, and so I decided to come to Nicholls and play baseball. And to back up, I hated LSU, okay? Everybody that grows up in Thibodeau, all these little kids, they love LSU. I got my first LSU t-shirt when I was 38 years old because the kid that played baseball gave it to me for my birthday. And I never wore it, so. But that was my first LSU shirt. So just, like Jay says, he grew up in Houma, and when you grow up in this area, most people dream of playing LSU. I wasn't good enough to play at LSU. I tell people all the time. I tell kids everywhere I go. I said, I wasn't good enough. I said, but you know what? It's okay. Jay will tell you the same thing. Nobody was beating my door down. I think Spring Hill wanted me to go play basketball. My dad said, Scott, if you don't go visit, nobody else is going to offer you. I said, I don't care, Dad. I don't want to go anywhere else. There's one place I wanted to go to school. It was Nicholls State. But then when I got to Nicholls, Coach Knight pulled another on me. He said, well, why don't you not hit? Why don't you just think about just pitching? I was like, here he goes again. I was like, well, now, at least I figured if I could pitch and hit, it'd be better than just quitting basketball. So now, and then he said the same thing. He said, I promise you, I think you can make some money one day at this game if you really put your heart and soul into pitching. And honestly, if Coach Knight, thanks for being the hard tail on me, but it all worked out. So, but my time here, it was unbelievable. Coach Bear's in the back. He's also a Hall of Famer. He's my pitching coach. Put a lot of time and sweat and effort in. He'd work in maintenance during the day and cut grass and fix the field, and we get out there and sweat from 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock to about 8. Is that what time the calf closed, Coach? Yeah. Thank God we got lights after I left, because if we had lights then, we'd probably still be practicing right now. So we didn't have those 30 hours a week, where you can only practice. We put 30 hours in 3 days. and then the rest of the days we put the rest in. But there's so many people here. Like I said, I love to thank my mom and dad and my sister. You know, thanks for all the support. You know, I remember every game. The one thing I love about playing in Nicholls was every day I got to play, they'd be in the stands. And I played professional baseball for so many years, and I pitched so many times, and you look up and there's a bunch of people either cheering for you or booing for you, but there's no family, you know, and that means a lot. So thank you. My wife and kids. Thank y'all. They chased me around the country, around the world for a lot of years, and gave up a lot. My wife Linda, she probably could have played on the Olympics team for softball, and instead of doing that, she chased me for my dream. And thank you. To all my other friends and family here, thanks for all the support. It means a lot. This place, I lived in California for 12 years, and one reason I wanted to move my family back here was because of Nicholls, because of my mom and dad. I grew up in Thibodaux. My father's parents lived in Missouri. I saw him for 2 weeks out of a summer every year. My grandfather was probably my biggest fan, and he never got to see me play in person. My mom and dad would send him a tape. He watched that tape over and over every day until they sent him a new one. And I didn't want my kids to grow up like that. But let me get it together so I can finish strong. But, you know, I tell people all the time, I wasn't good enough to make the Major League Hall of Fame, to be honest. God blessed me with a wonderful career, wonderful family. But even if I was good enough, this Hall of Fame means more to me than if I would ever be put in a Major League Hall of Fame, because this place is family, friends, and it's about, like Jay said, you make friends that you just never forget. And at the end of the day, you come back and I get to see the same people over and over again. It's always smiling faces, and it's wonderful. But to everybody, you know, thanks for everything. Thanks for everything to the committee, Rob and Dr. Hobart and everybody, and all the other people got nominated today, and all the other Hall of Famers who were in there in the past. It's an honor to be on the same wall in the same group of people with y'all. So thank you.
Well, Scott, my dreams of playing basketball were dashed at a young age as well. We have that in common. I did want to recognize some of our coaches that are here today. They came here in support of those folks that were inducted. They are Doobie Plaisance, our head women's basketball coach. Coach Abadie, things don't change. It's still an inexperienced team that's underfunded, and so she's taking care of that. Also, our head men's basketball coach, J.P. Piper, J.P. And our head baseball coach, Seth Thibodeau. I do lastly want to thank our staff. I'm very fortunate. Michelle Keefe in the back puts this thing on together. Where is Michelle? There she is, back there. I confess, I spend a good deal of my day, when people ask me questions, my response is, well, just ask Michelle. Because that's how important she is to our department. Also, Miss Amelie. Miss Amelie around? She was in the back. Where is she? Miss Ama's been with us for all these years, and Jay and all the other football players she knows well. Just as a reminder, at halftime, all of you, if you check with Michelle, she'll get you on the field. She'll get you on the field because we have a short presentation for all of you. Also, a couple things. Some of you I know haven't been on our campus in a while, so there's some time before some of the football game. I'd like for you to go around campus. We have new residence life facility. Yesterday we opened a new rec center here on campus. It's a beautiful building. Also, you'll see as you come to the stadium, there's a new facade being put on Guidry Stadium, and also across the street is a new soccer facility, which we will dedicate on October the 5th. Nicholls State has transitioned so well, and it's under the leadership of our president, Dr. Boudreau, and all the hard work that our folks in facilities and Mike Davis does. We're so proud of this campus. And again, if you haven't been on in a while, make sure you take a short tour. You know, today when you go to this game, you will see a lot of our student body sitting across the way, and they'll be wearing red shirts, and those red shirts will say Nicholls Nation on them. But we are more than a nation. As all the nominees of the inductees have said today, we are Nicholls family. And so with that, all of you are welcome back next year as members of the Hall of Fame. And Coach Abadie, I expect to see you and all the others. Enjoy your day. Halftime at the stadium. You should have tickets and everything. If you have a problem, see Michelle. Thank you for coming.